Lupin and Jigen are finally squaring off over which TV show they want to watch. The TV scrambles and shows Fujiko trapped in a cell. A man calling himself Fantomas Mark III tells him to bring the Indian royal ruby that Lupin stole to his base on Wester Island, or he'll launch Fujiko into space. Fantomas is the grandson of a ruthless thief, but Lupin feels confident he'll win. Unknown to them, Fantomas' plan is to use the ruby to power a laser that will melt the ice caps and flood the world. Got ourselves a regular supervillain here. The gang fly out to Wester Island but can't get close due to an electrical field. Lupin goes solo with Zenigata somehow tracking him down. His posturing causes one of his cuffs to get caught on his parachute and he floats off in another direction. Upon landing, Lupin is taken to Fantomas' underground base. Meeting with Fantomas, Lupin learns that Fujiko's cell is strapped to a rocket that he plans to launch. Lupin says he'll surrender the ruby but hijacks a guard's gun using knockout gas and takes aim at Fantomas. Fantomas reveals that that was just a decoy, causing Lupin to give up the ruby. Not that it helps, as Fantomas just transports Lupin into the rocket. As Fantomas makes preparations for the ruby, Lupin tries and fails to contact Jigen. The countdown resumes and Zenigata stumbles on the rocket just as it launches. While they conveniently have access to a pair of spacesuits, Lupin and Fujiko aren't able to do anything as the laser boots up. The rocket is remote controlled and reaches the first attack point, melting the ice caps as planned. As floods rage through various cities, Fantomas' chief scientist reports that the space shuttle is set to intercept, but Fantomas dismisses it as it's too late for anyone to do anything in his eyes. Lupin puts on the spacesuit and heads outside to steal the ruby. He grabs it just as it reaches its second attack point. Enraged, Fantomas blows the rocket up. His plans are done for though, as America and Russia are on a ceasefire to bring him down, with Zenigata signalling them. Lupin and Fujiko are adrift, but soon rescued by Jigen and Goemon, who hijack the shuttle. Kinda funny to think that an argument over the TV would turn into a supervillain destroying the world plot. It's a bit out there, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't amused by the absurdity of this episode. Fantomas himself is based on a 1911 French created thief of the same name, with the design coming from a 1964 film adaptation. I couldn't tell you too much about the character, but apparently he's a more ruthless version of Arsène Lupin, more willing to kill and so on, though the aforementioned film was apparently more comedic in tone. I guess it's fitting that their descendants go up against each other in that regard. Lupin drops his latest calling card at the Kaminarimon Gate, vowing to steal the Goddess of Mercy statue. Zenigata demands to be placed on security, also wanting the help of another detective, Hanshichi. Like Zenigata, Hanshichi is based on a fictional feudal-era detective. Hanshichi has seen better days though, as he has arthritis and falls for a sob story a bit too easily. Goemon decides to sit this heist out, as his mother was a worshipper of the Goddess of Mercy. Meanwhile, Zenigata meets with Hanshichi and learns about an incident 10 years prior. He chased Lupin to a plane in the mountains, but ended up nearly falling off a cliff. Lupin saved him, sacrificing his prize in the process, but the cold still left him with arthritis. The next day, they meet again to discuss strategy, and Hanshichi sees a tea stalk sticking out of his drink, taking it as a sign of good luck. Unknown to them, Lupin is right next door, having been arrested for drunk and disorderly. Just saying, but the last time he did that, he at least disguised himself. He plants a bug in the room, and Zenigata's stress causes him to drop a cigarette in his shoe. After Zenigata uses a plant pot to put it out, Hanshichi knocks him into Lupin's sight as he pulls it off. Hanshichi then claims there's no way this could be Lupin, as he was caught too easily and doesn't have that classic profile. Lupin walks free, attributing it to him saving Hanshichi's life 10 years prior. Zenigata and Hanshichi do some recon over the statue to prepare for security. Later, the chief reveals to a subordinate that he plans to have Zenigata and Hanshichi take the fall if the statue gets stolen to protect their own reputation, unaware of the bug. As Hanshichi heads home, he spots Lupin's truck, but it's empty apart from the recording equipment. The police bring in some new guardian statues as Lupin disguises as a priest. Hanshichi outs him, so Lupin unmasks and knocks out the lights. In the confusion, the statue's box is switched out. Lupin is caught, but as he's led away, he points out that Hanshichi handed the statue's box to a disguised Jigen. He escapes to the roof with Hanshichi following. We then get an outfit shift to everyone dressed in feudal garb, as Lupin fights off the police. As he takes care of Hanshichi, he activates a remote-controlled plane to escape. As Zenigata is berated by the chief, they receive a package from Hanshichi, namely a recording of the chief's conversation about setting Zenigata and Hanshichi up. Hanshichi was also the one to switch out the statue, leaving Lupin with an empty box so he can enjoy his retirement in Hawaii with a small down payment. Interesting to see that it's not just Zenigata who made it a life mission to arrest Lupin. On top of that, Zenigata is actually willing to defer to him, unlike a few officers in the past. Between Hanshichi and the old man from Series 1 Episode 12, Lupin should probably take a lesson not to underestimate his elders too. Zenigata is going over security for the 36 Views of Mount Fuji exhibition. After testing him for Lupin masks, the man in charge tells him the room is pressurised, blowing anyone out that tries to intrude, as Zenigata was privy to a moment prior. The man then locks Zenigata out and opens a hole in the floor, unmasking as Lupin himself and sucking the prince through the hole. The gang drive off, but stop when Goemon spots cherry blossom on the window even though it's autumn. A group calling themselves the Shiranami Gang of Five make themselves known through the art of Kabuki. Led by Damiemon and his followers Kikuko, Benten, Tadanori, Akahaji and Nango. Don't worry about who's who too much, Damiemon and Kikuko are the most relevant. Lupin laughs them off, but they demonstrate their ability by generating a gust of wind to escape. The gang decide to hide out underground and set up the prince to admire. Lupin decides to call Fujiko to join, but they spot another cherry blossom. Heading outside, the Gang of Five attack them. Lupin and the others fend them off, but they realise this was likely a distraction. Heading back, they find only one prince stolen but realise that Damiemon could come at any time. Lupin's solution is to lock them in a safe for the time being. Concerned for Fujiko, he drives out to where she's staying. He's greeted by her maid and finds her out back. Fujiko's impressed, and Lupin tells her the prints are in a safe that's activated by a phrase. Fujiko then shows him a tape recorder and unmasks Kikuko. On top of that, Zenigata attacks, but Lupin flips him aside and runs. Damiemon and Kikuko use the recording, but discover a second door to the safe guarded by a key code. Lupin reveals that as Kikuko escaped, he planted a bug in her hair, so they begin plans to track the Gang of Five down. They're interrupted by a phone call from Fujiko, who's been abducted. The gang follow the tracker out to the marshland and find Fujiko tied to a boathouse. Goemon splits and Lupin approaches, telling them the second code. As Damiemon heads off, they're attacked by flaming arrows, setting the boathouse alight. Goemon is waiting for Damiemon and Kikuko, but they appeal to his ancestry and sense of honour to turn him to their side. The boathouse's fire is spreading rapidly, so Lupin drives off to try another method, namely using a helicopter with a wrecking ball to knock Fujiko in the water and rescue her from there instead. They return to the hideout to discover the prince and Goemon missing, as well as the sliced up safe door. Meanwhile, the Gang of Five celebrate getting the prince as well as Goemon's initiation, though Goemon himself warns them not to underestimate Lupin. Goemon arranges to meet Lupin in a ravine the next morning. He challenges Lupin, admitting that he was impressed by the Gang of Five's spirit. Lupin shrugs it off, but Goemon charges forward. The fight is fairly even, but Goemon presses the offensive. As a result, he strikes Lupin and leaves him to jump into the river below. The Gang of Five leave disappointed, but Kikuko stays behind. She asks Goemon to run away with her, having stolen the prince as the other Gang of Five members discover. Kikuko explains that she wants to see her ailing father and show him the prince before he dies. The Gang of Five attack and Goemon is blasted by a bomb hidden in a rock. Kikuko uses a smoke bomb to get the two of them to safety and patches Goemon up, admitting that he was planned to be a hostage should he fail to kill Lupin. Meanwhile, Lupin is still making use of the tracker on Kikuko and uses it to follow. Goemon tells Kikiko to split from him as they're within reach of her father's home, wanting to finish the fight with Lupin and racing off as a result. They meet and Goemon apologises for raising his sword, offering to commit seppuku in retribution. Lupin agrees but falters at the last second. As a result, they decide on a fistfight instead. Goemon still plans to just ask Kikiko for the prince back after she's finished with them, though the others aren't so sure that will work. The Gang of Five attacks again and Goemon races off as the others fight. Kikiko is nowhere to be found in the house. The only thing Goemon finds is a flower, said flower marking a trap room. Goemon survives and confronts Kikiko, saying he remembered the story of the Ben 10 boy, a thief that disguised as a woman. Sure enough, Kikiko is the Ben 10 boy. Fits with the theatre theme they're going with, given high-voiced boys would often play the parts of women. For example, Midsummer Night's Dream has the actor who complains he can't play the woman as he has a beard forming. Anyway, with the facade dropped, Goemon knocks Kikiko over the cliffside. The remaining Gang of Five find Lupin's gang waiting for them, giving a similar Kabuki introduction. They admit defeat and Lupin's gang subtly slip away from Zenigata before he breaks character. Goemon being the one to come into conflict makes a degree of sense here. Jigen is generally loyal even with his snarking about Fujiko and Lupin's plans going awry in various ways. Fujiko is Fujiko, betrayal is basically a thing if she feels like it, but she almost never tries to kill Lupin while doing so. Goemon was the one to join the gang last, as we saw in Series 1. Plus, he's very much a traditionalist, so if he feels Lupin has insulted his honour too far, he'd be the most likely to turn on the gang, as we see in these episodes. Goemon and Kikiko's interactions are enjoyable to watch just for how overdramatic they're played, which is likely the point. As a story, it's another enjoyable one, even if it does end on a bit of an odd note. Also worth mentioning, there actually are some Japanese dance performances set to various Lupin songs. Next time, a team up with Zenigata, a trek across the Iron Curtain, and a conflict in India bring us to episode 60. Until then,